What is up, people? Welcome back to another Deal of the Week breakdown. My name is Ricardo Carrillo. I'm a nationwide mortgage lender. My team and I cover the entire US for financing. And as of a couple weeks ago, we actually just got Puerto Rico as well. And one of the beautiful parts about the fact that I have the ability to cover all 50 states for financing, outside of the fact, of course, that we have over 120 different banks that we work with and 3,000 plus different loan programs, is that I get to see where all of my investors are going for their future deals. It not only is super helpful for me, of course, because I get to see the hot spots of where my people are going, before I'm even purchasing my own properties, but for any of our new investors that we work with, we also give them all of the feedback of, hey, this is what I'm already seeing that's working. This is where I'm seeing other people are purchasing their properties. I have the recommendations for you. Over the last 6 years, we've funded over $500 million in loans, which has allowed for me to not only build the resources for all of our investors, but offer it to you guys completely for free. I love the deal that we're about to talk about because it's not one that people would really know is super common. I actually helped an investor of mine from Germany purchase a property in the United States without even having to come to the United States to sign any other paperwork. There's foreign investor financing loan options that exist for people who live outside of the US and want to purchase real estate here in the States. And it's actually not even as difficult or as crazy as you might think. In fact, I would say they are actually one of the easiest loans to underwrite from a banking perspective, because all you really need to have is the money for the deal. If you have the money for the deal, the bank will give you the funding, as long as we can also show that the revenue of the property that you're buying can cover the mortgage payment. And so it's cool. We're just gonna jump straight into this deal. This was a property that our client of ours purchased in the state of Texas, really close to San Antonio. It was a single family house. That was the type of property that they purchased. Again, most Airbnbs, more short-term rentals are going to be single family houses, right? But this kind of loan program is something that we call a DSCR loan, which, if you're a real estate investor, you've been in the real estate investing space, you've heard this term been thrown around. Everybody loves to throw the term DSCR loan around. However, there's so many lenders that don't even know how to really work these programs. They don't have the experience with it. They just want to jump on the bandwagon because that's what real estate investors are talking about. However, this specific one was for foreign investors. And so foreign investors purchasing a property here in the States will utilize this loan program, basically just showing that the revenue of the property that you're purchasing can cover the mortgage. Now, a DSCR loan stands for debt service coverage ratio. Debt service coverage ratio is super simple. It's just saying, how much of a monthly mortgage payment do you have? How much revenue is your property going to be bringing in? And are they equal to each other? So if you have, let's say, a $2,000 mortgage payment and you have a property generating $2,000 a month, the numbers are equal. It's a 1.0 debt service. That's all the bank really wants to see. Can your revenue cover your mortgage? They don't look at additional expenses. They don't really have anything like capital expenditures they add on top. It's just principal, interest, taxes, insurance, your full payment. Can it be covered with the revenue? Now, the best part about this is that we actually have banks who will let us use short-term rental data in order to qualify. We even have banks that will let us use things like AirDNA. If you guys have ever heard of AirDNA, it's a website that allows for you to look at projected revenue data for Airbnbs, and you can use that to then say, hey, this will cover the mortgage payment, we're good to go. Now, jumping straight into it, this property, in this one, we had a purchase price of $382,500. Appraisal came in at $410,000. Awesome. We had over almost $30K additional in equity that they're already coming into. The best part about this program is it doesn't require a huge amount of capital. We ended up coming in with a 25% down payment. Most foreign investor loans will actually require more money. I've had a lot of Canadian investors. I've had a lot of investors from Latin America that we've worked with who've purchased properties in the States, all throughout Europe, Dubai, Ireland, Germany, the UK, literally a lot of different countries where we have had people who've purchased with us in the States. And what I've always heard is that a lot of the international banks require like a 30 to a 40% down payment. It's huge chunks of money. We have lenders that will go as low as 20 to 25% down. In this example, we ended up doing 25. And so that down payment on this deal was at $95,625. Going straight into the interest rate, they got a killer interest rate for a foreign investor. We got a 6.75%, which is insane. That's actually even better than what a lot of my investors were getting on this same loan program, but for people who had citizenship or permanent residency. it's interesting because of the fact that we locked in at a perfect time, honestly, for when she purchased her property. The market had just dipped and we took advantage of it. We jumped right in. She found a good deal. And everything worked out. So it was really cool to see that. The property's been profitable. So going back to then hearing about our clients' experience, what that's looked like, how we tried to make it as seamless as possible for them, and really just walking people through the process, right? I think one of the most daunting things, if I was an investor out of the state, out of the country, and wanting to buy in that state, like I'm thinking to myself, if I wanted to buy in Portugal, where my mom is from, I would have no clue where to even start. And I think it would be so difficult to find somebody like myself who would explain it to me the way that I like it explained. Principal and interest on this deal ended up in at $1,860 with 67 cents. Homeowners insurance came in at $397 with 45 cents. It was a little bit higher because of the fact that we were covering it for a short-term rental. Property taxes in the state of Texas, unfortunately, also are brutal, $654 with 51 cents. No monthly PMI at all, simply because of the fact that one, we were putting over a 20% down payment, and two, this kind of loan program doesn't even have PMI. Even on our 15% down options, there's also no PMI. So that's pretty cool. Total monthly payment ended up coming in at $29.12 with 63 cents. And then let's jump over to what we ended up doing here for total closing costs and what this number ended up looking like. So total closing costs, we ended up really buying down the interest rate down to that 6.75 because it was a situation where we didn't really want to refinance. We were locking in a great time in the market. That ended up coming in at $34,000. Not only that, but also the time of the year can fluctuate with how much your closing costs are going to be. And so it was a little bit higher here, which is why we ended up being at this $34,000. We didn't have anything in seller credits. That was the only thing I would have changed about this deal, where just because of the fact that the property had overappraised. So in situations like that, like the appraisal came in at 380, property appraised at 410, we have the ability to increase that price because there's extra wiggle room and then ask the seller to give you that money back in credits. So we could have done that on this deal. I wish we would have structured it that way. Sometimes sellers can be a little bit weary because they're like, well, why are we increasing the price on the contract? And it can make it a little bit trickier. Adjustments and other credits came in at $44.45 with 35 cents. Adjustments and other credits are just based on the time of the year, simply because of property taxes. You have to give the seller back money if they paid for those 6 months of property taxes already. That can make it a little bit tricky. Ended up coming in with a total out of pocket at $126,153 with 45 cents. Now, what's cool is that a lot of lenders that this client was actually speaking to at the beginning were requiring her to come in with more money. They wanted 30% down plus. And that's what I was saying. It's like when you don't understand what options exist, you don't know that you can actually potentially save more money up front. And then here's the thing. If she goes to refinance this deal in the future, you're going to have to leave a certain amount of equity in the deal. And so trying to minimize how much money you're bringing up front is the absolute most important. If we can bring in the lowest amount of money out of pocket, you can save that money to continue to reinvest it into more deals. You can spend it on amenities, furniture design, jacuzzi, sauna, cold plunge, whatever you want to do. You can use it towards that. And it ultimately just helps you scale your real estate portfolio. I hope you guys found this deal of the week informative. It's one of my favorite deal structures that we've done in quite some time. I really like working with foreign investors because it's just one of those things that it can be super daunting, and my team and I will make the process as seamless as possible. That's why we cover the entire US and we work with clients all over the globe. Again, I hope you guys found this deal of the week informative. If you stuck around this long, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for sticking around. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the video. I'm going to continue to put out these deal of the weeks every single week for you. And if you haven't seen my other ones, you can check it out here or here. I will see you guys in the next deal of the week. Peace out.